Oh, hey. Hey, before I show you guys the package installations, you haven't even seen the new bee yard yet. You want to check it out? Welcome to the new bee yard 2021. So welcome to the new bee yard, and this is the new bee barn. And I don't know if people didn't quite get it on the last video, but I didn't just make one of these. Why would I make just one? I made 6 of these, and they're all up here in the bee yard, and they're all full of bees right now. And I'm gonna get to the bee installations right after this video. But first, I wanna give you guys a little overview of some things I changed in the bee yard and things that have improved in the bee yard, and why I think this setup is gonna be a lot better for me going forward. So the first thing you're going to notice up here is I've eliminated all of the cinder blocks and the 4x4s and the way my hives used to sit on those long stands. Much like the bee barn was designed to completely eliminate lifting boxes, the hive stands that I've created here are going to help me with lifting frames. Let me show you. The way the hives used to sit on those stands made it so that I had to reach into the hives from the back to access the frames. There was this weird twist that I would do with my arm out front like this and bending over, lifting frames up. And over the course of years and hundreds of hive inspections and thousands of frames, a lot of bending like this is just exhausting and really bad for my back. So having the hive sit on individual stands makes it possible to walk right up to the side, stand over the hive, and pick up frames with equal arm movement like this. It's a little thing, and I know a lot of people already do it, but I just discovered it, and it's a game changer. All these beehive and bee yard modifications are to make my life simpler. As you can also see, I've removed the cinder block from the top of the hive. So I have no more lifting of boxes, no more strange lifting of frames, no more lifting of cinder blocks off the top of the hive. I replaced the cinder block with a 2-inch strap. Without a ratchet, this is a cam buckle. This is quick release. That hangs right there. You're in your hive. Done with your inspection. Put that back on top. That's locked down. Tuck your strap, and you're off. No lifting. So I gotta say, it feels great to have eliminated all the cinder blocks from this bee yard. So what are those? All right, there are still cinder blocks in the bee yard, but they're not attached to 4x4s. They're not impeding where I walk, and I never have to lift them. This is where I'm gonna put my resource hives. I'm gonna have 3 double nuke resource hives. So we're gonna go for 6 nukes this summer. Stay tuned for that. So as you can see, there's a lot more space in the bee yard this year, and that's partially because we only have 6 colonies here right now, but it's also because I wanna have more space in the bee yard. We currently have 6 bee barns and 3 resource nuke stands. There is room for expansion. I'm thinking maybe 3 more bee barns total, maybe 1 more stand for double nukes, resource hives, but that's kind of about where I want to be. I really like how open this feels and how light it feels up here, how much space there is. It's easy to pull a cart right in here. It's easy to spread out. Everything feels nice. Like I said a couple videos ago, I'm going for quality over quantity. I don't want 15 colonies. I don't want 20 colonies. I want happy, healthy bees. I don't want them to have to compete for limited resources, and I just want to have a little less on my plate, especially this year. So this is how things are going to look for the foreseeable future. And if you have OCD tendencies at all, the bee yard might drive you a little crazy, but there's a reason for that. So you probably also noticed by now that all my hives are facing a different direction, and they all kind of look a different way, and the bees all have different flight paths to their entrances. And the reason for that is because of that hive right there. That's the Adrian hive. That's the survivor hive from the winter. All my other hives last year died, and that one made it through the winter. That hive had the exact same drought experience, the same supplemental food, the same box, the same wrapping, insulation, coroplast, Vivaldi board, burlap, the same beekeeper, the same oxalic acid treatments. Everything was the same for that box. And I was trying to figure out what caused that one to survive. Was it genetics? But it wasn't genetics because over half of the other bees in the bee yard that died came from the same line of queens, the Balboa line. So I don't think it was genetics. I was trying to figure out what it was, what could have made that one survive. And I was looking at a video from last year, and then it hit me that there was a major thing about that hive that was different than all the others in the bee yard. That hive started out as a queen cell in 2019 in a double nuke. About a month ago, noticed a big fat queen cell, like a big peanut, capped in this hive. I took that queen cell, put it in this resource hive so that they could make a queen. And double nukes are a deep box that's divided in the middle, and each side has its own entrance. One entrance goes that way and one entrance goes that way. And I had it sitting on the bench, one entrance south, one entrance north. That one was in the north side, so it was going in and out this direction. Last year, when I graduated that hive to a full-size hive, I didn't want to put them in the full-size hive and then flip them around to the south because it would disorient the bees. They were already an established colony, so I just took the frames out, put them into a box, left the box facing north. So that hive spent the entire summer last year facing north. Every other hive in the bee yard was facing south. I have all my hives facing south due to the sun. I want them to get the morning sun and the winter sun that's low in the sky in the south facing this way. So I always put my hives facing down here. But that one spent its summer facing north. Think about last summer. We had the extreme drought. We had no nectar flows at all. All the bees were in and out of each other's hives robbing like crazy. And I think because all the hives were facing this way, all the robbing was coming in this way. The bees were just going in this way because that's how every opening was facing. That hive was tucked away in the back corner facing the other way. And I think it was just enough that the bees didn't go over there to rob it. I think it just didn't have the pressure that all the other hives had. So it didn't lose resources like the other hives had, and it also didn't get infested with mites. I've had apivar strips in that hive for over a month now, and there's been hardly any mites falling off. There's no mites in that hive. So I think facing the other way was the key. So there's nothing else about that hive that was different than the other hives, but I think that's a major thing. And I think there's some merit to that idea that that might be the key to their survival. And because of that, I decided to not have any of my hives facing the same way. They're all facing different directions, and I think it's going to reduce bees getting into a habit of flying one way into boxes. You know, for them to fly into this box and then that box, they have to completely change their flight path, and it's just going to be odd for them to do that. They're going to get in the habit of always coming in one way, and that's going to be their way. And no other hive has that way to get in. The other thing this will do is it'll eliminate drift. You know, bees won't be drifting from one hive facing this way and then facing this way, and they're only 2 feet apart, and they go in the wrong hive. That's not going to happen anymore. So that's why all my hives are facing different ways. Another thing people are going to notice are these discs on all the hives, and those are my hive IDs. I'm not going to be painting the hives different colors this year. I put these on the hives as a thing for the bees to orient to. It's just a different design on each hive so they can know which hive is theirs. And because the design of these hives was inspired by the inside of a tree, I decided to use trees to identify each hive. And I used the trees that are most common on our property, growing all around the bee yard. This is the birch hive, the oak hive, the beech hive, the pine hive, maple hive, and this is Adrian. This is the cherry hive, named after the big cherry tree. A couple little details about the bee barn that I didn't go over in the last video. A couple people asked in the comments how I check the mite board, because the mite board's buried behind 4 1/4 inches of insulation and wall here. This here is a little door I put in the back, and this is the part of the wall, of the outside wall. Then you have a piece of insulation in there, which is the insulation that's in front of that wall. So that's kind of the construction of the hive right there. And then the mite board's attached to this little tail, and that just slides out. And while I'm here, this hive went in about 5 days ago. The package went in and there are not any mites at all. So that goes right back in there. Where are you? Slides in, insulation, and a little door. I thought of everything. All right, I'm gonna try and record this in the flight path of a very busy hive without wearing a veil. People were asking me about my entrances and about my landing boards. And yes, I took the landing boards off my hives this year. Hello. All right, that's it. So that didn't work out. Anyway, back to the landing boards. So yeah, I designed these hives to not have landing boards. There's a little lip here, but that's just to hold the mouse guard up. There's no excess board sticking out here. On my old hives, I did notice that landing boards were a place for debris to gather, and also a place where water would kind of hit and then sort of rot away the wood a little bit. It was where my hives always looked the grungiest, was the landing board area, because it was just a flat surface for water to sit. So I took the landing boards off. Everything I've read has said that the landing boards are more of a thing for the beekeeper than for the bees. The bees don't need them. They fly in, they land, and they go right in. It's not something they need. So if they don't need it, the hive doesn't need it. I did put an awning here that will not accumulate water. It'll shed water off, because I do see bees hanging out on the front of the hive. And sometimes in the heat of the summer, they're all bearded out here. And when there's a little light drizzle of rain or hot sun beating down, this area is protected. And they do hang out under the awnings. You can see up here, they always kind of tuck up under the awnings. It's just a nice cozy place to sit. So awnings are cool. Landing boards, I just don't think they're necessary. So that's what I did. I also reduced the entrance by about 3 or 4 inches. This is only about 8 inches wide now. And that's so that the bees have a smaller area to defend. Also, in the wintertime, cold air whipping into the hive is not going to be as much of a thing with a smaller entrance. And I do have mouse guards on because we have mice running around the bee yard year-round. They're everywhere. And I see them running around the hives. So, mouse guards on. I can take these off in the really hot days of the summer. I can just lift them up. They just, leave the hives open for more ventilation. But this time of year, and definitely over the winter, close this off, easier to defend, and it doesn't affect anything. So mouse guards on, smaller entrance. And I know people were asking about the actual entrance and how the bees get in there. This wall is 4¼ inches thick. It's 2 by 6 here, and then there's 2 inches of insulation, and then the hive begins. And the bees have to walk kind of past all that to get in. The insulation's not exposed. I actually built a wooden tunnel that goes all the way back. So the bees enter, they walk down like a 4-inch hallway, and then they get into the hive. So pretty simple, no insulation is exposed, and it's nice for the bees. So that is the new bee yard layout 2021. And a lot of things have changed, a lot of things have improved, a lot of things will change, I'm sure, but I'm very excited to be keeping bees up here this summer. My back is going to be saved, and it just feels good up here. Things feel nice. Before I get into the bee installation video, which is coming up, I just want to address 2 things that have come up since I posted the last video. The first thing I want to address is the overall design of this hive. The video I put up is called I Fixed the Langstroth Hive. And that's basically what I did. I'm not claiming ownership of this design. I'm not claiming I invented anything new here. I'm not going to patent this. I don't plan on selling this. I might make plans available or make a video about how I made it, but what I did was set up my hive and stared at it in my garage, and I looked at all the things that bothered me about it. And then I fixed those things, built this, made a video about it, and then put it on YouTube. This is a starting point. This is version 1.0. I was hoping people would see this, maybe take the entire design, redo it all, make a video about it, put it up on YouTube, and then I could watch what they did and then improve on my design, make my hive better. This is open source. This is meant to be shared. That's why I put it up on YouTube. If I had any intention of making money on this, I wouldn't have made a big YouTube video about it. I would have been talking to attorneys and getting patents and whatever, but that is not the plan. See my video, watch my video, take what you want from it, improve your hive, and let me know how it goes. You know, this isn't going to work for everybody. This isn't a commercial solution. This isn't a solution for the heat of the South. But if it can help someone solve a problem they have with their hives, that was the goal. And thing 1B regarding the design of this hive is this is not a Layens hive. It's not a national hive. It's not a Dedant hive. It's not a Langstroth hive. It's not any modification of those hives. This is a Langstroth hive. I built it using a Langstroth bottom board, Langstroth deep boxes, medium boxes, a Langstroth inner cover, Langstroth size frames with a Langstroth foundation. It is meant to be supered using a Langstroth super with Langstroth frames in that super. When the bees fill those up with honey, I'm going to take those frames and put them in my Langstroth sized extractor and extract the honey. This is a 100% Langstroth hive. The only difference is I made the sidebars of my frames deeper. And then I put insulation on stuff. And I tweaked the ventilation in the top. But it's a Langstroth hive. I looked at Layens hives. I studied horizontal hives. I looked at Dr. Leo's website. There's 3 fundamental things about those hives that are deal breakers for me and why I didn't build those kind of hives. Number 1, they are horizontally oriented. It's right in the name. Horizontal hives are a no-go for me. I like vertically oriented hives for winter because bees can move up and down in a cluster a lot easier than they can move across frames to get to food in the depths of a 6-month winter. So horizontal hives are horizontal, so I didn't want to go that way. The other thing I don't like about Layens and horizontal hives is those bars at the top of the frames touch. And the idea is you keep the honey down below the bars, which I didn't want to do. I like supers. I like the bees being able to move up above the brood nest and fill honey up above. So this, you put the super on top and the bees go up. So point number 2 of not wanting Layens or horizontal hives is the supering. So you can super these. You can't super Layens hives. And the third major reason I didn't go Layens or horizontal or Dedant or anything was because I already had the equipment. I have a garage filled with beekeeping stuff and it's all Langstroth equipment. I have 50 deep boxes and medium boxes. I've got 20 or 30 bottom boards and lids, and I have all the frames. I have a Langstroth extractor. I have everything. So I just repurposed what I had to fit my needs. If I was going to go do apiary or whatever, I'd have to go buy all new equipment. If I was going to build horizontal hives or Layens hives, I'd have to buy everything new. I already had this stuff. So I just made it work in a new way. That's it. So this is a Langstroth hive. Nothing more, nothing less. And the second thing I want to address is kind of a major thing that's come up in the comments and beyond over the last week. And that is that I know the difference between beekeeping and beekeeping equipment. I understand that putting bees into a shiny new box or changing up your bee yard or getting new hive equipment is not going to make them survive any better than they would survive in a regular hive or in the old bee yard if you don't do the beekeeping part of beekeeping. That I understand. It seems like a lot of people, including people that I follow and respect very much on the internet, completely missed the point of the video that I made about the bee barns. I think a lot of people saw that video and thought that my brain experienced the losses I experienced last winter and then thought, wow, if I just make a new beehive, that won't happen again. And that's not what happened. What happened was I experienced the bee losses and then I figured out why the bees died. And I made an entire video about it. And I talked about my mismanagement of the mites last year and the fact that I need to focus on nutrition and reducing the number of hives I have in the bee yard and how I'm going to change my whole mite treatment schedule and my mite testing schedule and all that stuff. And I put it in the video and I explained that I'm working on the beekeeping part of beekeeping. That's all ongoing. at the same time, I had an opportunity, because I had no bees up here, and I had a garage filled with empty equipment, I had an opportunity to fix a whole bunch of crap that bothered me about my hives for the past 5 years. So because I had no bees and I could just redo everything at that time and then put all new bees into that stuff, that was the perfect time to do it. So it happened following my losses, but it wasn't because of my losses. So I know that I still have to do the beekeeping. And trust me, I am on it. I'm never going to have losses like that again. The beekeeping is the beekeeping. The beehives, the equipment, I know that is not the beekeeping. However, that stuff, the new hives, the new frame situation, the new bee yard, is going to make the beekeeping a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. And the two can happen at the same time, but they're not really related to each other. So that's all I want to say. I really appreciate all your support. I really appreciate the comments, and people really care about what I'm doing here, and it's awesome. So please stay tuned. The new installation of the bees is coming up, and we're off and running. Season has begun. So thank you for watching. Thanks for your support. Happy beekeeping.